The $2 million Wendy Schmidt Ocean Health X Prize was awarded last night for new technology to detect changes in the world's oceans. 5 finalist teams put their technologies through a 3-month test in controlled laboratory conditions, followed by a month-long performance test in a coastal environment. Wendy Schmidt joins me now. I'm also joined by Peter Diamandis, Chairman and CEO of X Prize. Welcome, you guys.
Thank you.
Wendy, let me ask you first about the cause before we talk about the prize. You're the president of the Schmidt Family Foundation. Your husband is Google Executive Chairman Eric Schmidt. Why have you chosen to focus on ocean acidification?
This is my second X Prize, working with the X Prize Foundation. The first one we did was about oil spill cleanup back in 2011. And that was a very visible problem, right? We had an oil slick on the surface of the Gulf of Mexico that was the size of the big island of Hawaii. Very obvious thing to go fix. There's a silent threat to the planet right now in the oceans, which is ocean acidification. And it's happening because of the excess CO2 in the atmosphere. About 30% of that is absorbed directly into the oceans. And it's subtly changing the chemistry and doing it at a rate 10 times faster, scientists tell us, than has ever before recorded in human history. The last acidification event was 50 million years ago, and it happened over millennium, not decades. So this subtle chemistry is affecting the ability of shellfish to create their shells. It's affecting our coral reefs, and it's really going to the bottom of the food chain in many ways to disrupt a system that's evolved over millions of years and that we depend on for the air we breathe. More than 50% of the oxygen on the planet comes from the oceans. It's more than all the rainforests combined. People don't know that. You know, about 2 billion people get their primary protein from the oceans, and about 3 billion, that's almost half of the people on Earth, get their livelihoods from the oceans. So it's time for us to recognize our connection and the importance, and to do what we can to reverse this process that's connected to us.
And why are you so passionate about this particular issue, though?
Because it's one I think people need to understand. I'm a sailor and a diver, and I get below the ocean myself. I understand this. I saw during the oil spill episode that this very strange relationship that humans have with the source of our life, our lungs, right? Mm-hmm. Our playground and our pantry. That's the oceans.
Right. Peter, let's talk about the X Prize. It's now 2 decades old. Can you give us a little background on that, please?
Sure. So people don't realize incentive prizes have been around for a while. Here in New York, where we are, it was in 1919, a guy named Raymond Orteig put up a $25,000 prize for the first person to fly between New York and Paris. And that prize was won by Charles Lindbergh, really launched today's multi-$100 billion aviation industry. And my own passions of being, in the space side of the exploration realm, if you would, I wanted to become an astronaut, gave up on NASA being the way I was going to get there. And I organized a $10 million prize for the first team who could build a spaceship to carry 3 adults into space. Was won by Burt Rutan, backed by Paul Allen. Richard Branson's now commercialized that. And so the question is, what are the problems on the planet that should be solved that are not being solved? And we work with incredible philanthropists like Wendy, like Paul Jacobs from Qualcomm, Elon Musk, and others to launch large-scale competitions. And here we've made a commitment over the next decade to be launching 5 X Prizes in oceans. We've done the first 2 with Wendy. I hope we'll do others. And that's what we're doing.
There are more competitions that span a number of causes these days. The following competitions are underway. A $30 million Google Lunar X Prize, $15 million Global Learning X Prize, $10 million Qualcomm Tricorder X Prize, and a $7 million Adult Literacy X Prize.
Yeah.
Right?
We're launching 3 or 4 prizes a year in a wide range of areas.
Wendy, let's talk about the winners last night. They were announced. A team of chemists from Montana, Sunburst Sensors, took home both grand prizes, $750,000 for accuracy, $750,000 for affordability. Tell me about this team and its technology.
Well, if you told me 2 years ago when we assembled 25 marine scientists to ask them what can we do about ocean acidification, what tools do you need, we basically followed their guidance. And if you told me at that meeting that the winners of this prize would come from a landlocked state where they have to actually import ocean water to test their sensors, I would have been very, very surprised. So what a great result. And yes, these are high school friends who formed a company together. 2 of the principals are married. And
9 employees. It's a small company.
Yeah, and they say, you know, we're able to do this working as hard as we can and competing with companies that have far more resources. So it's a great example of what the X Prize competitions can do. They can bring people into these opportunities from everywhere. We had a team early on that was a high school group from Carmel, California, and they crowdsource funded their effort. One of their moms was the manager of the team. So very grassroots. We had a group of surfers who wanted to put these sensors, when they developed them, on surfboards and send citizen surfing scientists all over the world to gather data. So it's a great example.
In total,
of how it
70 teams entered the competition from around the world. 18 delivered hardware. And you know, when you know where you want to go, like we want to create sensors that are 10 times cheaper, can go 10 times deeper, and can really give us the technology to measure what's going on in the oceans. But you don't know who's going to be able to do it. These incentive competitions work well to crowdsource the genius.
And that's the important thing about the data collection. You know, there are devices now that can measure ocean pH, but they're expensive. They're hard to use. Most people don't have access to them. And through this competition, we've developed sensors that can be far more available around the world for scientists, for people doing coastal management, for industries like the shellfish industry, where you know, people have been observing this trend of juvenile deaths in acidic waters, and they want to understand, why is this happening? When is it happening?
Right. This is a starting point for this company, Sunburst. What else can this, I mean, what can this prize money sort of do for a company like this? When can they get started working?
We have a good example of that. You know, the sensor that they built 2 sensors, one, as you said, for accuracy and one affordability. That the high-end product is one that was on their drafting table. It already existed, but there was no real market for it. And oddly enough, just as they were finishing the competition, not knowing they'd won yet, they got a call from a customer saying, we need a sensor that can go down to 1,500 meters. And they said, we got one. We went down to 3,000 meters in this competition, about 100 miles off the coast of Hawaii.
Yeah, we're fond of saying when the competition is won, the work begins.
Right.
And so our goal now is support this company and this industry to get their sensors out there. Again, if you can't measure something, you can't affect it. And as our friend Sylvia Earle says, the decisions we make in this next decade is going to affect the next 10,000 years.
And do you track this company to see how they do going forward?
We do. So the last competition, for example, that for oil spill cleanup, the team that won that competition, increasing the rate of cleaning up oil spills 600%, 6 times faster, has now become the dominant technology being used in oil spill cleanup. And that's our hope. Again, we ask teams, do something extraordinary. We'll recognize you around the world, give you a bunch of cash, and then help you really move your tech forward.
It's important to say, though, that everybody in these competitions, all 70 teams that approached us with the idea of getting involved, they're all developing technologies. And so even though we have specific winners in this competition, everybody's done work.
Right.
And by the end of the competition, all of the finalists are cooperating with each other. They're actually trying to solve the problem.
Right.
It's not about money.
And Wendy, final word, what can ordinary viewers take away from this prize? People who can't actually, you know, enter a team. What can they learn from this?
I think you learn that innovation comes from everywhere, that you stay open, that you try to solve problems, and don't think anything is impossible to solve. I've spent my adult life in Silicon Valley, and I know that we do everything differently 10 years, you know, now from 10 years ago. And that's true whenever you get on a new technology platform. So I think the X Prize is offering that opportunity to everybody to think that way.
Great. Wendy and Peter, thanks so much for joining us. Let us know what you think about the X Prize and the Ocean Acidification Award. Leave us a comment in the section below or send us a tweet at Yahoo Finance.